Do you know what unites Hitler, Kim Jong Un, and Putin? If you answered that they are dictators, you're right. But the real answer is a bit different. Before I tell you, I want to explain a certain dictator's trick to you. Later, you'll understand why I'm bringing all this up. Surely, everyone at some point has wondered, how could such a cruel and insane person like Hitler come to power? And more importantly, how did he manage to hold on to it for so long? It's simple. He used in his domestic policy the very dictator's trick I just mentioned. In fact, this trick was one of the reasons why Hitler was never overthrown. But what exactly is this dictator's technique? This trick is based on scaring ordinary citizens with stories about supposed enemies who allegedly threaten the safety of the state or hinder its path to prosperity. I think it'll be clearer if I give you a concrete example. Germany, 1930s. The country was, to put it mildly, in a bad state. It had lost its colonies. Part of the country was occupied. Many cities were still in ruins due to the consequences of World War I, and Germany was burdened with reparations, as the entire blame for the war had been placed on its shoulders. Naturally, most Germans were unhappy with this, and were dreaming of revenge. Then, an ambitious Adolf Hitler appeared on the country's political scene, blaming Jews for almost all mortal sins and the state's hardships. This rhetoric appealed to Germans. Now they had someone to vent their anger on. Hitler promised the citizens a prosperous state and pointed out supposed enemies who, according to him, were sabotaging Germany's path to a bright future, enemies who needed to be eliminated to achieve prosperity. That's why Germans were willing to support Hitler no matter what, allowing him to consolidate his grip on power. Hitler's political rhetoric was largely built on revenge and on frightening people with imaginary enemies. Now, let's return to the question at the beginning of the video. The correct answer was the dictator's trick I just told you about. And as the examples of Kim Jong Un and Putin show, this trick still works today and remains very much relevant. They also tell stories about fictional enemies of the state and present themselves as mighty leaders who can defeat these enemies and lead the country into a happy future, exactly as Hitler did in the first half of the 20th century. Thanks to this trick, citizens are willing to support their rule, enabling these madmen to cling to power. However, unlike Hitler, Kim Jong Un blames not Jews, but the West, specifically South Korea and the USA, for all the country's woes, while Putin, in turn, also blames the West and people of non-traditional sexual orientation. He accuses NATO of expanding eastward in Europe and allegedly preparing an attack, a narrative that Russian propaganda has been using to scare its population for decades. Meanwhile, the LGBT community is accused of supposedly corrupting the Russian people, especially the youth. But really, are people of non-traditional sexual orientation more dangerous than a brutal creature clinging to the presidency and willing to do anything to stay in power? Obviously, these stories are nothing more than nonsense meant to distract citizens from real internal problems by inventing threats, usually from outside the country. The war in Ukraine is a chance for the Kremlin to unite Russian citizens against an imaginary external threat and distract them from the real problems inside Russia. Speaking of the war in Ukraine, have you ever wondered why Russia even started this madness? Recently, I released the first part of a video on this topic on my channel. There, I discussed the official reasons for the war in Ukraine according to the Kremlin. In the second part, I will talk about the unofficial but much more plausible reasons. And by the way, I just mentioned one of them.